Okay, it is Wednesday, the 6th of July, 2022, and this is episode 26 of All Back to Mine. This show is quite a regular show, and I invite guests, DJs to come on the show and talk about their musical influences, their lives, DJing, streaming, particular areas of types of music that they're into, and they all get to choose 7, sometimes more, sevens that they particularly want to play. So today it is 3:30 p.m. Eastern time because we're coming from the States, and my special guest is Jeyone. Here he is.
What up?
How you doing, man?
Fantastic. It's good to be here with the legendary Criztoz 45 day.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on the show. It's great to have you here, and yeah, we'll get to some sevens in a minute, and then we'll go from there. And then we'll talk about lots of things. But I always like to start with musical origins because I always like to know where my guests sort of get their music from. So, most are from family, friends, people like that. What about
Right.
you? So, who first sort of introduced you to music or got you into music initially?
Well, originally I would say it was my older brother because he still to this day collects vinyl, like ridiculous amount of like 80s vinyl. Like
Wow.
he knows
Okay.
like probably every 80s record ever made, what date it came out, who played on it, every
Wow.
track list of every album from the 80s. Like he just that's his era. So records were just always around the house. And then outside of that, it was like being into skateboarding and BMX. Just started hearing like music in those like skateboarding videos, BMX videos,
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
like that. Started opening me up to different kinds of music, hip hop, and then punk rock and all that kind of stuff. And then just all of my friends I skateboarded with or rode BMX with were all like older. So then they just started schooling me to stuff. And I was very fortunate that like a lot of these guys were really into the music. So as they're
Yeah.
like exposing me to the Beastie Boys, they're saying, oh, yeah, well, they sampled this artist and this artist. And you know what I mean?
That's cool. I'm just going to say hello to a couple of people in the chat. We got Benny Goggs, we got Data Manzen, we got Island Vibes, and yeah, Island Vibes is saying skate vids were a major influence on him as well. So
Right. I know
I guess
like a few of us come from that same era
yeah,
of,
yeah. I mean, I personally wasn't a skater, but I've always been into sort of hip hop and stuff from from a young age. Whereas a lot of
right.
my friends at that time were probably more into grunge because it was
Uh-huh.
pretty big here, like Nirvana, all that stuff. I didn't really get into that till later.
Okay.
I was sort of more into sort of hip hop and sort of raves and stuff. But yeah, and Groove the Most in the house. We got some more legends in here.
Nice. We got
Uh,
all the fam up in here.
we have. Thank you for joining us, everyone. This is All Back to Mine. I'm talking to Jeyone. If you can, please host. Let's get as many people as possible listening into this chat. So your older brother, so he collected 80s music. So
Right.
was he a DJ or just a
No,
collector?
no, just like a slightly an audiophile, person. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, he just likes the music, and like the funny part about it is he collects the records, but he like rarely listens to them.
Oh,
He like
really?
just keeps them like perfectly clean and stored away, and all the covers are in mint condition. But then he goes and buys the CD and listens to that in his car.
Okay. Okay.
So he
That's
just really is into like
yeah.
the collecting part of vinyl. Like he
Does
loves
he
it.
does he collect and then sort of sell on, or he's just literally
He
collecting?
has like I mean it's like
Yeah.
all of us like kind of buys and trades along the way and all
Yeah.
that.
It's always you always buy more than you actually sell. I find that's the,
Yeah, well,
that's the
I've gone
problem.
through an interesting journey with that part
Yeah.
of it. I have a weird brain. Like I'm like half collector, half minimalist.
Okay. That's
So
good.
like I've gone through many sections of my life where I've built up like room full of records and then like sell them all off and then have like 3 crates and then rebuild it all again.
I would say I'm probably half collector, half hoarder at the
Okay.
moment. But I
Which
think
yeah.
I'm trying to tip the other way and trying to think, right, okay, I need to probably get, slow down with some of these records because there's a lot of them sitting there that I'm probably never going to listen to again. But
Right.
it's yeah, it's one of these. It's the 45s addiction. That's the problem.
Right.
That's the problem. Okay, well let's get rolling with some music. As I said at the show, people I invite on the show get to choose 7 sevens. They can be a theme, they can be a particular style. We've had people play records from their own show, from their own label. And what have you gone for your first choice, and why have you chosen it?
Well, I guess my first choice will be the very first 45 I ever had to DJ with.
Wow.
Sorry, I didn't get organized quite well.
Don't worry. While you're doing that, I'm just going to say ZZ45 is just wandered into the room. She normally gets to see the guests before, but she didn't get a chance to meet you. So she's just saying hello from over here.
Hello.
And as we said earlier, she is. We've got Sideshow Mall 7 Deadly Sevens happening tomorrow, which you're on as well, as is pretty much every other 45s DJ in the world, it appears.
Yes. I don't know how he puts these things together, man. Like, props to the Sideshow, man.
Yeah, I mean, I put a lot of raid events, but I'm not quite sure how he's managed to get so many DJs in such a short space of time, because he only started it about.
You're both insane with it, man. Like, the lineups you guys put together are so crazy.
It's a weird one, because you sort of put it out there and say to people, right, do you want to play? And then 99 times out of 100, people say yes. But we've got Sideshows kicking it off, and then ZZ45's on second. So if anyone's up at 7:20 a.m. tomorrow UK time, then come and check ZZ45. I think I'm on like near midnight, so we're sort of topping and tailing tomorrow, me and ZZ. But anyway, she says hello.
Hello. So yeah, these aren't the original copies, because anybody that knows anything about this particular 45 is that they're all styrene. So it's the Big Payback by the Godfather.
Of course.
Yeah, for me, this was the very first thing I ever cut up on 45 when I first got my turntables back in 96 and started really collecting stuff to DJ with. I'm sorry if you hear like some squeaking in the background. It's my little dog's birthday was last night. MF Doom for all the channel followers. Everybody knows my dog MF Doom. And
nice,
he just brought one of his toys in, and he's going crazy with it. So sorry. But anyway, so yeah, when I first started DJing in '96, I started collecting some 45s only because the town I grew up in, we didn't have great record stores. So if you wanted to DJ with a certain song, sometimes you just had to get it on 45. And at the time, I hated it because I was like, oh, I don't want to DJ with 45s. This sucks. You know what I mean? And like whatever, but that started my journey. I eventually fell in love with them because it was kind of one of those things where I started going to parties and DJing with 45s. And like back in those days, like I know that it was a whole different culture over in like the UK and stuff, but in the States, like the only people you saw DJ with 45s really were like reggae DJs.
Okay, that's interesting. So what year are we talking then? When did
96, 1996.
And so prior to this, I assume you're on 12s that you're DJing with?
Well, I started DJing January of 96.
Okay.
So prior to that, I had like, I don't know, creative records, but like, you know, I didn't have like doubles of anything, just miscellaneous 12 inches, like Biz Markie, Just a Friend, Rapper's Delight, Planet Rock, kind of the staples that like a kid would want to listen to, you know?
Yeah.
It was just stuff I had kind of collected over the years of here and there, going to the record store with my brother and, oh, I like this song. There it is. I'll buy that. You know what I mean? It was nothing like, didn't think of DJing yet. So.
Okay.
But yeah,
cool.
I guess I'll play a little bit of this. I mean.
Yeah, let's do it.
And I know everybody's pretty familiar with this one. These aren't too hissy. That part ever play without that ain't right. Woo! Hogan, Holland cuss. You wanna fight? Payback is a thing you got to see. Hell, never do any damn thing to me. So yeah, I think everybody knows that.
That's a classic.
Yeah.
There's a question from Island Vibes, which I'll ask in a minute. But first of all, let's say hello to a couple more people. We've got Danny Bounce, Mr. Soul, Gallon Hardy, Groove the Most. I think I've said hello to Pepper Box and 45 Finch. If I've missed anyone, hello. But yeah, Island Vibes question was: have you got the picture cover for that?
I think I did at some point, but I don't now.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. We've had some of the other DJs who've been on. I think that in the UK and probably in Europe, there was a lot more sort of picture covers,
Right.
for 45s and something like that, and high Twitch as well. So, yeah, that's a great cover. And actually, I was sort of digging out for Seven Deadly Sevens. I was thinking, okay, I might go a little bit James Brown and sort of covers of James Brown. So, yeah, I'm still thinking about it. Okay, so we've sort of worked out that you got your influences from your brother initially, and then obviously from skate vids and stuff like that.
You see this dude right here? Look at him. He just.
I can hear it. It's good. It's good. We've had.
Is it annoying you? I'm sorry. I can like kick him out.
No, it's cool. We've had dogs and cats and all sorts on the show.
He was like totally sleeping right before this, and now he's like awake and wilding out.
But it's part of Twitch, isn't it? It's real
Totally.
life. We're letting people into our worlds, into
Right.
our homes, and obviously animals and children are part of these worlds.
Right.
It's cool. No, it's cool. It's not a problem. He wants to be part of the show. Absolutely. It's
He'll probably jump up on the bed here in a few.
Yeah, do some tricks and sort of spin loops and stuff like that. That'd be cool. Okay, so you said that obviously 96 when you bought that. Now, is that about when I think you said started in January of 96?
Yeah, January 96 was when I first got my first set of turntables. Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you have? What was your first setup? Did you go straight to
a set of techniques? Yeah. So
Yeah.
so basically, I had a friend that I met like 94 that had turntables already. So between 94 and 96, I would play around at his house,
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I love this. And it was just one of those things where even with like my skating or like BMX and then DJing, I was like one of those people, I didn't really like doing it in front of people until I could like really do it.
Okay. Yeah.
So like I already knew like I wanted to do it. And he would let me borrow his turntables for like a couple of days here and there and bring them to my house and let me practice or whatever. But anyway, I started saving for those 2 years to buy a set of techniques. He passed me down like an old Gemini Scratch Master, and I was on my way,
Cool. And obviously, I know your age because we did your 45th birthday.
Correct.
Not so long ago. So this would have been about 17, 18, something like that.
Yeah, well, so
About that.
yeah, I was 18, about to turn 19 when I first got my turntables.
Okay. And I assume have you DJed ever since?
Ever since.
Through then. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's cool.
Yeah, the crazy part about it was only about a year later, I did my first DJ contest and won.
Wow.
And it was at a local college, and got asked to DJ a party for like one of the organizations that put on the DJ battle.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, okay, well, I can make money at this, I guess. And then that party led to another party and another party. And next thing I know, it just became my job. Like to this day, I've never had a real job. Like I graduated high school.
Cool.
Spent the entire summer after I graduated, like just in my bedroom, driving my parents crazy, cutting up Peter Piper for 15 hours a day, just practicing. Then it was like December of the end of 96. I entered the DJ battle and then I won. And in 97, I started DJing in clubs.
And what was your routine then? The first routine you did, was it Peter Piper?
Yeah, it was definitely Peter Piper.
Okay.
Yeah, that was one of them. And then like I had some like other kind of corny stuff. Like, so I got my turntables January 96. I think it was probably May of that year. I got my first DMC tape, which was the 95, 96 finals, USA finals, that literally had everybody in it. Like DJ Swamp won. He was the first person to go in the tape. As soon as I popped in that tape and I saw that routine, I blew my mind. Like that was, oh man, you can do this kind of stuff with turntables. Like I was just mixing. I had my turntables turned to disco style, I was just, my little scratches were like stuff I would hear on Black Moon, Gangstar, trying to imitate that stuff. And then I saw that, and then of course like Qbert, Rock Raider, Rob Swift, Mellow D, Babu. I mean, everybody was in there in that tape, and I just wore that tape out over and over and over and over and over and over.
Well, and again, this is pre-internet. So
Yeah.
you had to get a copy of the tape, and then you had to watch it.
Right.
And I'm assuming VHS back then.
Correct.
So obviously, rewind. It's not as easy as it is now to watch. So
Correct.
and again, it's we live in an amazing world that we can literally just twitch on, and there is these DJs from around the world, amazing DJs from around the world, doing all this stuff right in front of you. And it's good for the kids coming through, because obviously they can see what's going on. Like you had to find this VHS tape or be given this VHS, so to see it is another way of of scratching. So
and I'm still so thankful for the guy who worked at the record store that put me on to the tape. It was this guy named Tony, and he worked at this place, DJ Music and Tapes, Records and Tapes, or something like that.
Okay.
And I don't know, just the stuff I would come in and buy, like my selections. He eventually one day was like, "You're like really into hip hop, huh? Because like you're buying like underground hip hop stuff." And I said, "Yeah, like whatever, blah blah blah." He's like, "Do you like scratching?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I love scratching, and it's part of the reason why I love DJing." And he's like, "You ever seen a DMC contest?" I was like, "I have not. I've never seen a DJ contest. Period. Like I don't.
Wow.
no clue whatsoever." He was like, "You need to buy this tape," and I bought that tape and changed my life.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, did you know what DMC even was before?
No clue.
No. Okay.
No clue.
That is
not at all.
That is
and it's crazy because I can still remember that whole moment of him explaining the tape to me and like selling it to me like so vividly, because it literally was like one of the biggest life-changing moments of my life.
I bet.
Because my whole life has been with this. I mean, I met my wife DJing at a club, like, you know what I mean? Like it all from my whole life circles around two turntables and a mixer,
That's brilliant. That's so good. Well, let's have some more music. Let's do your second selection. What are you going to go for your second one?
Well, this song holds a special place in my heart. For anybody who was a skater in the 90s, this was pretty much the anthem. So this was something that definitely opened my mind to, like, I don't know, good hip hop, I guess. A lot of people say Tribe and things like that, but which is also a big influence, huge Gang Starr fan, all that, Black Moon, But this song right here, still to this day, gives me goosebumps every time I hear it.
Okay.
Yo, what's up? This is Tajay of the Mighty Souls of Mischief crew. I'm chilling with my man Festo, my man A Plus, and my man Bo. He's dope. And right now,
Yes,
we're just
live to
maxing
have
in
the
the
cover.
studio. We're hailing from East Oakland, California, and sometimes it gets a little hectic out there. But right now, we gonna up you on how we just chill.
Dollar 7 digits, call up Bridget, her man's a midget. Plus she got fringe, yo, I can dig it. Here's a 40 swig it, it's frigid. I got him chillin' in the cooler, break out the ruler. Damn, that's the fattest dog I ever seen. The weather's keen in Cali, getting weeded makes it feel like Maui. Now we feel the good vibrations. So many females, so much inspiration. I get inspired by the blunts too. I'll front you. If you hang with the bunk crew, I roam the strip for bones to pick. When I find one, I'm gonna take her home and quickly do this. I need not explain this. A plus is famous, so get the anus.
Hey, miss, who's there? I'm through there, no time to do hair. The flicks at 8, so get straight. You look great, let's rub now. Or rub down some flavor later. There's the theater. We in the gut, the cinema was mediocre. Take her to the crib so I can stroke her. Kids get broke for their skins when I'm in close range. I throws game at your dip like handball, cause the man's all that. I'm leading chill from 93 till.
Yeah, this is how we chill from 93 till.
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 This is how we chill.
So yeah, that was definitely a big influence on me and my musical journey.
It's such a classic tune, and it's timeless.
Yeah,
you could listen to that forever.
It's just a perfect song. Period. I mean, just take it out even outside of hip hop. It's like that's one of the few songs that, like, over the years of my DJing, like places I would DJ and stuff where people don't care for hip hop at all. That one song, they still always, if it comes on, they love it. It's crazy.
It's just something. It's just a vibe, isn't it? And it's just the feel of the song and the beat. It's it's a really good choice. Really good choice. Yeah. No, two great choices already. We've got plenty to come. I'm really looking forward to seeing what else you've got to come up. Okay, hip hop. Why has hip hop grabbed you so much, and why is it such a big thing in your life?
Well, I think for me, just, teenager, it spoke to me, that era, the 90s era. To me, growing up in the States, I can't say how it is for everywhere in the world, but here, in the 90s was really the generation where I feel like all the different cultures kind of started coming together. And like I grew up in like a very mixed area with all kinds of different people and different cultures, and hip hop was the thing that kind of brought us all together. It was the one thing like we all liked that we could all identify with.
Right.
Didn't matter how you grew up. Like, you come from a white family, a black family, Asian family, whatever. Like, you were a teenager in the 90s, you liked hip hop. So it was something we all had in common. And it was something that I think bonded a lot of people together. And it was the message in the music, the music was, very like, let's just all come together and have a good time and listen to music. Or, of course you got the street shit or whatever, but it was like, that stuff of that era to me was telling the story, not telling you should live your life this way. It was more the opposite. It was like, well, this is where we come from and we're trying to get out of this. You know what I mean? And so like, I don't know, it just had a very positive message. And then discovering sampling through DJing and all that kind of stuff, it just blew my mind because I'm literally like, this is like the music of all musics, because the backbone of it all is so many different styles of music, So like then it opened me up to all that. Like prior to really getting into hip hop, I was really into punk rock, but I wasn't into like classic rock or anything like that. Some of the grunge stuff, but like definitely not classic rock or anything like that. I knew songs that were popular, blah, blah, blah. But really hip hop opened me up to all of that, especially jazz. Like I didn't know shit about jazz, And then through hip hop, I just fell in love with jazz music. I mean, I went through a couple of years of spiraling down that wormhole of going and just finding like all the like audiophile versions of jazz records to listen to them and hear the difference and all of that,
Yeah. Well, it's, I mean, a few things come out of that. Obviously, the 90s is the golden age of hip hop, as most people sort of call it,
Right.
And I think, like you say, it was because the vibe was so positive.
Right.
And also the sampling, because back then they could sample whatever they wanted,
right.
layer it up as many samples as they want, and they got away with it. And then obviously things changed with copyright, cases and all the rest of it.
Right.
But again, yes, like you say, it's this amazing envelope of music that I don't think it quite happens with other styles. You've got it a little bit maybe with reggae sort of versions, and I guess you've got it a little bit with other cover versions and stuff. But you don't really have any other styles of music that samples quite so much. A little bit in dance music,
right? Oh yeah, for sure, yeah.
But not quite in the same way, where you can hear the original sample, then go back and trace it back and see where it came from.
Right.
And I think that it's certainly what I like, because hip hop could be sample anything, you know, and like you say, jazz, rock, punk, anything, and hip hop's created. It's an amazing
right.
genre.
And two of my biggest influence groups in the beginning were Public Enemy and Beastie Boys.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're sampling everything from Slayer to Bad Brains, which is all stuff I was already listening to. So those were the groups where I could like, oh, that's he's scratching in a guitar riff from Bad Brains. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I'm like, this is amazing. Like, I love punk music too, and I can incorporate that to hip hop, and this is great. And then, like, as I got more into hip hop and DJing, I watched all that kind of disappear. Like, it just started getting like all like the Jiggy era and all that stuff started coming in. I'm like, wait, what happened to all the cool stuff? Like,
it's all those copyright cases, wasn't it? Completely messed it all up in a way. It's sort of coming back a little bit, but in a much more sanitized sort of way. But also, I guess things, the ones who are sampling now are maybe putting out the 345s that, me and you will buy.
Right.
And it's not massive, so that, they can sort of just about get away with the sort of sampling stuff. But even then, a lot of labels have to be very careful, because, you don't want to, cease
right. And I think that's part of what I love about 45 culture so much right now is that it's evolved into like the DJ edit. So you got the remix, like the whole culture that we're all involved in was now we're all like taking these old classic songs that we love and like redoing them and like adding in those sample elements and like finally doing it the way that like we all envisioned hearing those songs originally, you know?
Yeah,
So I
definitely.
love that. That's
Yeah.
so awesome.
It's yeah. We'll talk a little bit about my 45s in a minute, but let's have another one. Let's have another track. What have you got next?
Oh, okay. Let's see. I'm kind of going with the flow here. So as the
No, it's cool. It's
conversation
cool.
goes, then like
I imagine pretty much all your bags are full of fire. So whatever you pull out, I'm sure is going to be
yeah,
great.
I mean, I guess, you know, I'm okay, I guess. I don't know, you know, like my collection over the years has come and gone, so
Yeah.
you know, I'm always like into weird different things. But let's see. We'll go to another big influential group of the time for me. And
So
this
to
song
DJ B
particularly.
and T2 Funk in the house. Welcome.
What up, what up?
I'm taking it back, come follow me on a journey to see a for real MC. The mind tricks the body thinks the mind is crazy. Whatever's lazy, when I get the flow, I'm Swayze. I break, you take whatever type of shit the nigga buckshot make. The incredible, lyrical, and original. You can kill a bull if you wanna take a pull. Whatever I see, I attack. Fuck off my back, black nigga, fuck that. The devil lurks and my heart irks for the hell. Look into the eyes of a nigga who fell. I hit my head on the concrete to beat the feet. Another dead nigga in the street. Bullseye, direct hit, don't miss. But how many MCs must get this? Whatever you want.
So I have to stop it right there because
Yeah.
so the 12-inch of this, as we all know, has the acapella on it. This was my original fresh that I learned to scratch with was I can break it down like whatever you want.
Break it down like whatever you want.
So I used to just scratch with that over and over and over.
And the acapella of the
could
12, yeah?
break it down like whatever you want. When I learned how to do that, I was like, oh, I can scratch now. Like that was it for me. I was like, oh, I'm good.
Because like Cuba says, doesn't he? There's, you know, the R fresh, and there's a couple of other sounds. You know that's the way to learn. Because if you can do those, you can pretty much do any other scratch.
Yeah, personally, I think sonically they just sound so good. As the years have progressed, I've gotten really irritated by fresh, but like I still is like my go-to. I love it. You know.
Yeah, there's something about it, isn't it? There really is, and it's testament to pretty much every scratch record that comes out still has it on there somewhere. You know, So whatever scratch samples are on there, it's definitely on there. Let's talk a little bit about the competitions then. So you won your first competition. You know, where did it go from there? How did it progress from there in terms of battling?
Competition wise didn't go too well for me from there.
Okay.
Like it was kind of all downhill after that. Like I don't know, like for many years, I don't want to say many, but a couple of years, I just was trying to find my own identity, you know, and my skill level wasn't still quite there. Like I had learned the basics pretty well and pretty quickly, and that worked very well for like doing local DJ battles. Like most people didn't know how to beat juggle yet. They couldn't do body tricks. There were some kids that could scratch pretty well, but that was about it, you know? So like once I tried to step into like the DMC realm for the first time, I mean, first of all, I wasn't used to DJing on other like setups. So I get up there, thought I had the turntable set up right, and then just my needle skipped the entire time, like just jumping all over the place. Like, yeah, it was a complete disaster. And then like, I was just trying to come up with my own style. Like my scratches weren't there yet. My beat juggling wasn't quite where I wanted it to be. I could do body tricks really well. That always impressed the crowd. But, DMC, that stuff was already done, you know? So, yeah, the whole competition thing was like, I would do some battles, but it just kind of fell apart. So after about a couple of years of trying to do those, went on my own journey of like, I'm not going to worry about competitions and stuff
Yeah, yeah.
anymore. I'm just going to like try to do my own thing, you know?
Well, you do sort of read about for the 5-minute DMC routine, people are spending like a year perfecting
Right,
it and doing
right.
it. And then obviously on the day, the lights, the heat, the pressure, the decks, everything else, can just completely throw it. But it's a lot of pressure and a lot of time to sort of give up to do a routine like that.
Right. And I think
So
that was part of my problem was that like I wouldn't do that.
okay,
I've always been of the philosophy when it comes to DJing is that like I want to just have a style that I can do at the drop of a dime.
right,
Like no matter what record you hand to me, I'll
yeah,
beat
yeah,
juggle it, I'll cut it up, I'll scratch it. And so when I would try to practice for those contests, I would just practice all year long on like my styles, like trying to come up with my own beat juggle patterns and scratching styles or whatever. And then like a month before the battle, maybe even less, then I would start to try to like, okay, this is my better beat juggle, this is my better scratch routine. Let me just kind of piece these together and then go do the thing. So
yeah, yeah.
probably
And
probably a little ill prepared, you know.
yeah, I mean, I don't, you see these DJs and you just think, they're just giving up so much to
Right,
get where
right,
they've got to,
right.
and it's tough. It's huge competition. And at this stage, you're still vinyl, I'm assuming. We
Oh
haven't,
yeah,
we
absolutely.
haven't reached the realm of sort of digital DJing anywhere near by this
Nah,
point.
nah.
Okay.
Nope. Still just final, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, when does that come then? When did you? I assume you moved over into digital DJing at some point.
Yeah, like day one. I was a Serato adapter like day one. Like I pre-ordered mine like 6 months in advance
Wow.
through Guitar Center. Like so like I was already into I've never been one that liked recording mixtapes and stuff.
Okay.
Like I just like to do it live.
Yeah.
But like I was heavily influenced and fascinated by like the legends like DJ Spinbad and stuff like that, you know? So I was always kind of thinking, how can I try to make my live DJing sound as close to this as possible? Which when Serato came along, finally made that can happen. But prior to that, I was experimenting with everything I could come up with. Like I had when CDJs came out, I had like one CDJ I would use with my turntables, and I would make remixes and DJ edits and blends and stuff back then and play it off the CDJ along with my vinyl, like in the
Okay.
mix and kind of throw these things in or whatever. And then like when I think it was the Stanton one, final scratch, I think it
Yeah.
was,
Yeah. I
which
think
was
so.
a
Yeah. I think
complete
that's right.
disaster.
Yeah.
Tried that out and it just would never, it would just take forever to like set it up and it never really worked right. And the vinyl was like dub plates. It was super thick. You know, you couldn't really scratch with them very well. They would skip all over the place. It didn't have like a relative mode or anything like that, you know. And then as soon as I heard the rumors of Serato was coming, I was already a big Rain head. Like they already had like, you know, the 56 and then the 54 before that were like my all-time favorite DJ mixers. So I knew like if Rain was going to make something, it was going to be great. So as soon as I could put an order in for Serato Scratch Live, I did. And I'll never forget the day it came. I was like, oh my God. And again, I was only looking at it as a tool to continue to use along with vinyl.
Yeah.
But then like the first night I brought it home, took a couple hours to get it dialed in. I was like, never carrying records to the club again, you know, like this is amazing. Like, and then it was like, holy shit. Now anything I can create, I can play,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was just a whole new world for me because especially back in those days, like getting my own vinyl pressed up was just like a pipe dream. Never thought it would ever happen, you know?
It's it's interesting still to this day because someone put a post in the 45 Kings group. I think it was Chris Pop, and he said that he misses in a way being able to put together an edit or a mashup or something and then being able to play it that same day,
Right.
at a gig. And obviously now if you wanted to do that with 45s, you have to get it pressed, and that's like months and months down the line.
Right.
But yeah, no, I mean I guess it just opened up completely
Yeah.
everything you could do.
Right.
Any music you could think of, you certainly did that. And this is it was just a box to start with, wasn't it? It was
Right.
it wasn't
Yep.
the mixes weren't sort of integrated at that stage.
Yeah, that was like a couple of years later, maybe 3
yeah.
years later.
Yeah, it took a
after
little
the
while,
original.
didn't it? So But yeah, so how did that convert? So you've got that box. Does the DJing then just completely, when you're going out and playing, did that sort of increase? Did it help?
Oh,
Were you doing more
absolutely.
gigs after that?
Absolutely. Because for me, I was already going down the lane of like, I don't know what you would call the open format mashup style nowadays.
Yeah.
Like I was already like a lot of the really good clubs in my area where you could make good money. They wanted like not they wanted like a diverse selection of music, you know.
Yeah.
And like I had mentioned earlier, the record stores in my area were shit. So there was so like when it comes to like rock stuff or like even like good house music, stuff like that, I couldn't find that stuff on vinyl. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't have the internet yet, so I didn't know about ordering online or anything like that. It was just a matter of, well, we're going to try to drive up to New York this month and like hopefully hit all the record stores and find some good records. You know what I mean? It was that was just kind of like how it was. And so yeah, so then but by that point I had already collected enough stuff where I was already like DJing some clubs where I could play like an 80s music set, a disco set, house music set, very little rock. I mean, I couldn't find the good rock stuff. Like trying to find Nirvana or something like the White Stripes on vinyl was impossible. Rage Against the Machine, all that stuff. It was just impossible to find any of that stuff. So then Serato just immediately opened up that whole floodgate for me. All the old rock stuff I had, or at the time was old, like all the 90s rock that I wanted to play in these clubs, I now could play. And oh, wait, now I can make my own version of it. Like I can make it so I can mix it and like actually like make it sound proper, like it was just endless. So, and there was nowhere to download MP3s at the time. iTunes had like kind of come along, but like it was not like what it ended up becoming. So I literally spent months and I don't even know how much time just recording vinyl into Serato.
Well, I think you're answering Island Vibes. Island Vibes was asking the question, where did you get them your MP3s? And I think
well, there you go.
You didn't have them. You didn't have them
right.
then.
Oh, and this is a funny thing too, was that like after I ripped like probably 8 to 9 full crates of records, clean, dirty, instrumental, acapella, 9 crates of records, realized I had recorded everything in mono.
No. That must
man,
weeks and weeks of
just months down the drain. Like, and then I converted them all at 128 because I didn't know any better. And like at the time, I was using iTunes to convert them from I would have to put the CD. I'd record them to a CD, put the CD in the computer, then highlight the tracks, convert them, and then have to name each one individually. And I had ripped them all at 128 in mono. Like they sounded like a cassette tape. It was terrible.
Well, people like cassettes now, so maybe the vibe is going to come back.
I started the whole lo-fi trend way back then.
Yeah. There's a couple of points I'm going to bring out of that. So obviously vinyl now is this resurgence, and there's too much demand for vinyl. We can't even get it pressed anymore. But obviously you're talking sort of 2000, about then.
So 2004, that was when Serato. October 2004 was when I got Serato. Yeah,
because it wasn't. Vinyl was still around, but by then people sort of said vinyl's dead, CDs, MP3s. It had been the way. So obviously it's very different to now being able to walk into your supermarket and buy a record. Certainly here you can go to your big supermarket and just buy some of the music you were talking about, which is still strange. But yeah, like you say, you would have to source it and then make it. And you said about making your own edits and things like that. Well, what were you using back then to sort of produce?
Just a digital 8-track.
Okay.
So I didn't have my first computer. Like there was like a computer in my house later, and as I graduated high school, my dad, I think it was like the year after I had graduated high school, my dad went and bought a computer and like brought it home, was like, there's this thing called the internet. And I had already moved out of the house at that time. So like I would go back to their house from time to time and like get on the computer and stuff, and started kind of figuring out the internet. But anyway, like I didn't get my first computer until I bought one to use for Serato.
Right.
That was my first laptop I ever owned. And then like as I'm figuring out Serato and all this stuff, I'm figuring out a computer for the first time.
Yeah.
So like it was an interesting journey, like trying to figure all that out.
And it seems like Well, it is generations ago, isn't it? You know, like
Yeah,
we're old enough to remember what it was like before the internet.
right,
So in one sense, we've been quite fortunate to sort of live through all this and see how things have progressed. But like you say, you know, getting your first computer, getting the internet, you know,
right,
you know, kids today just switch their phone on and they've got, you know, more power than we would have had ever back
right.
then. You know, they can produce beats on their phone. It's crazy. You know, it's completely crazy what people can do now.
But I did fall into a fortunate situation, like fairly quickly in,
Yeah.
was probably like, so at that time, me and DJ B, we go way back.
Okay.
As I know, you know, DJ B, Beezus.
Yeah.
So we were both like always on the same plane. Like both of us were like, oh shit, we gotta get Serato. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so he was in the same boat. Like I think we got ours like a week apart or something like that, you know? And so then we were like trading MP3s, and he was the one who was like, oh shit, you like recorded these in mono and at 128. Like, oh, okay, I didn't know. So that, you know, he'd already like had somebody like tell him about that. So he knew that aspect of it all or whatever. And he was just getting down with our crew that was forming at the time, the Scratch Mechanics, which was based out of Philly. And the guy who started that crew, DJ XL, was him and Sat One, they and Jay Ski, they were all super tight with Jazzy Jeff. So of course Jeff had already been using Serato for a while at that point. He was part of, you know, helping develop it and stuff, really, from what I understand in those days. So as I got down with the Scratch Mechanics in 2005, XL like got like Jazzy Jeff's hard drive and a couple other like Kenny Dope and like all these like amazing DJs that already had like amazing collections, and passed it down to us, and then we had stuff. So we did get into having a fairly deep collection like pretty quick. Like it was within 6 months of having Serato, like we had like all the music we needed, kind of a thing.
It just goes to show the collective and the community there is within music, because it's sort of what you're saying is exactly what sort of happened with Twitch more recently, isn't it? People helping people
Correct.
get streaming, and people helping with sharing 45s or sharing music or whatever like this. And it's amazing that, you know, there isn't this sort of competition where people say, you know what, I'm going to keep my hard drive to myself. I'm not going to share anything with you. It's the, you know, the sharing and saying, okay, look, here's some tracks, you give me some tracks, let's exchange, you know, we're all going to help each other, we're all going to build up, you know. And it's such a good thing to see, such a good thing,
especially at that time, because it hadn't ushered in the wannabe DJ yet. So everybody who was trading music with each other were like established DJs who like all earned the right to use those files, you know what I mean? And then it was a couple of years down the road when it was all of a sudden like the neighborhood promoter is now a DJ because he got Serato and he's trying to buy your MP3 collection. You know what I mean? And then, then that's when we all started being like, oh, wait a minute. We got to slow down this sharing, because literally these guys who like don't even know how to DJ are now becoming DJs. And all they needed was the music. And now they got the music because they downloaded it for free. And now they can go undercut you at the club. And that was a whole era of disaster, which I think still goes on to this day. But
I guess before with vinyl, you had to go out, buy the vinyl, have it. Once Serato kicks in and it can be digital and you can just transfer a file, it's much easier just to sort of steal or borrow another DJ's set or playlist and just go and play it and say, right, I can play the same tracks he's playing, but like you say, much cheaper. You know, it's and
digging
it's like business with everything, I suppose, isn't it? You know, that's the problem. Yeah.
And in the early days, digging was one of the things that attracted me the most to DJing. Yeah. Because once I figured out, like, especially in the area where I lived, where we had shit record stores, it was most people didn't have like really deep collections, you know what I mean? Unless they had been DJing already for a really long time. But anybody who was starting around the same time that I did, they just kind of had what they could get from the main record store, and that was it. Whereas like I figured out very early on, because I was a fan of like DJ Shadow and all those people very early in the game, that like I started hitting thrift stores, and DJ B as well. Like we would go out and dig every day. Every single day. We would meet up. I mean, we might not always meet up every day, but like every day we were both out like in the trenches digging up records. And then so like after a while, it's like not only were like we into the cutting and scratching and like really good at that, but like our collections were untouchable. You know? I was the kind of guy, I would go buy a $500 record just to cut it up. because like I want to be able to have that record and cut it up and you can't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that makes a lot of sense.
I miss those days for sure because that definitely added a huge layer of each DJ's personality, which full circle comes back to now the 45 game. Like it's not only how good are you, but what's your collection like,
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll come back to 45s in a minute. But let's have another.
Sorry,
tune.
I'm drifting all over the place.
No, not at all. It's all great stuff. Let's. Island Vibes is exclamating at $500 for a cutting up a record.
Yeah, I think it was my original copies of Skull Snaps. I think I paid $500 for doubles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which obviously has been,
that was back when like you couldn't even find it, and like it was like 2 copies, 1 cover, and the cover was trashed, like.
Yeah.
But, hey, I had it.
Yeah, exactly. Let's have another track. I think we're on number 4, so let's have another one.
All right. Well, I'll play one of my favorite reggae songs, which.
I'm a big reggae fan, so
again, like reggae played a big part in the whole 45 thing for me, for sure.
Yeah.
Plus, I just loved the music, and as I really got into DJing clubs, and where the area I grew up in, it was like when you DJ'd a hip hop night, you had to know the hip hop and stuff, but you had to have like an old school R&B set. You had to have a go-go set because we were so close to DC. You had to have a house music set. You had to have a reggae set for sure. Like. If you didn't have at least an hour's worth of reggae, like you were gonna suck as a DJ, like in the clubs, And
so those sets. I mean, how long are you doing 4 or 5 hour sets, or are you just coming in and doing an hour?
4 hour nights was like the bare minimum.
Yeah. Okay.
Like my first club residency, like really strong residency I was DJing at a club 5 nights a week. Only night I didn't do was Tuesday night because that was reggae night. So I would do Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right? And I would play from happy hour, 5 o'clock p.m. till 2 a.m. 5 nights a week, all vinyl. So I was carrying like 10, 20 crates to the club.
Whoa.
Yeah, and would not repeat records at all. Pretty crazy.
Okay, let me just check how that would work then. So, if you're a resident of that DJ, are you taking your records, say, on the Monday and leaving them there, or are you literally taking them back and forth every night?
Absolutely,
every night. God.
And I lived in a second floor apartment with no elevator, so I would take my records in every night. Man, I'm telling you, I was cut. I was so cut, dude. My 6-pack was, woo. And I drank every night. Like I probably drank 20 beers a night back then. I was raging. I was young, but like, man, I was so cut because I would literally have to. I had this dolly, so I would like stack 3 crates on the dolly, and then I would pull that up each stair. So I mean, I'm just doing that every night, coming home drunk from the club, 5 nights a week. Didn't care because I'm DJing. I'm like, this is the life.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And then next day, have to wake up hungover and load them all back into the car again. That was the worst part.
Yeah. No wonder when the Serato box came out, you were like, yes.
Yes. I was like, I had already like narrowed down my collection at that time because when Serato came out, I was DJing on the radio. So I'd already been on the radio for a while. So I was like in a nice position where like, then I would be the radio DJ from the club. So I would just show up and play there would be like an opener and stuff. Turntables would usually already be there because I would hire like an opener or whatever. And then I would just come in and play like a 2-hour set. So I would just come in with like 2 of like the smaller record crates with handles and like a record bag and not, just could do my thing like that, But so it was like not as bad by the time Serato came along, but yeah, still like I went through the trenches, man, like carrying crates.
Yeah. The kids will never know. The kids will never know what it was like.
Right.
Cool. Let's hear this reggae track. What you got?
So this is not necessarily like the oldest reggae track, but I think it just sums up everything about reggae music to me. For DJing wise, at least,
Yo, you can't say that you have such a great reggae
Another
selection.
tune I just can't get enough.
And you don't have 1 7-inch 45 in your collection. Me I tell the people them it's all about the 45. There's something about the feel and the vibe. You're a selector and you've never played a 45. There's something about the feel and the vibe. Yo, You ever feel the vibe when you hold a 45 with your thumb in and the middle fingers on the outside? Black vinyl about 7-inch wide. Information on the label, music on the two sides. Something about the 45, me say something about the vibe. Brand new tunes too, not just revive. You coulda have a million tunes up on your hard drive, but there's something about the touch and the look and the vibe of a 45. Something about the feel and the vibe. Oh, you a DJ and you've never played a 45. Something about the feel and the vibe. Yo, yo. When you put it on the deck, you know a musical kiss. When the nigga touch the vinyl, then you hear a little hiss. Bass sound warm and the top sound crisp. Not so digital like a compact disc. Every DJ have to experience this, cause it's a part of your musical apprentice. Play the vocal, then the version with a flick of your wrist. Then the MC come in at this, cause it's all about the 45. There's something about the feel and the vibe. You're a selector and you've never played a 45. Something about the feel and the vibe.
And part of what I love about this song the most is I can't remember what year it came out, but I remember it was like, I think it was like maybe the 2000s. And it was like during the time when like Serato was kind of taking over. Yeah. So like when this song came out, I remember it was like kind of like preaching, you know, the stick to the culture, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it explains why we love 45s, but
right.
You know, but what is it about them for you? You know, I mean, obviously, you know, we're all big 45s heads in the chat, and obviously 45 Day and 45 Kings and Twitch and all the rest of it. But what is it for you? Why do you, other than they're probably less to carry around than your 50 crates that you used to, but what is it for you that you like about them?
Man, I just love DJing. You know what I mean? Like I love all aspects of it. Like I love Serato. I love 12-inch vinyl. I love 45s. I like, if it goes on a turntable, like I love it. That's why like I'll never use like the Rain 12s or a controller. Like I've never owned a controller or any of that stuff, because if I can't put a record on when I want to put a record on along with the digital, then I don't want to do it. You know what I mean? Because this is what I fell in love with. So like to me, it's all part of it, you know? Like the 45 was just as important as the 12-inch, like I said, because of reggae, you know? Like when I DJed clubs, you had to play reggae, and all the reggae was on 45s. So not only are you carrying crates of 12 inches, but you're carrying like a couple of crates of 45s that are just all reggae. You know, I used to carry around like 2 or 3 crates of just reggae 45s, you know, because I loved reggae, and like I was so into it that I, you know, and I'm very fortunate that I learned how to play reggae the right way, which is something I've noticed through Twitch, is that like a lot of DJs don't really know how to play reggae, and that's not a shot at anybody or anything. It's just, there is a way you play reggae music, and like it's part of what it is. Like when I hear people play like songs with the same rhythm, like out of rhythm, like drives me insane. You know, like they play something from like, you know, the Bam Bam rhythm or whatever, and then like 5 songs later they go back to another song from the Bam Bam rhythm. It's like, what are you doing? They're supposed to go together, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So and there's a vibe. Like it's just like there's a way to build up a vibe. If you go to a reggae dance and you hear how they play the music, I mean, you know, you don't play the roots stuff like in the beginning of the night. Like people will throw beer bottles at you. You know what I mean? Like that's not how it goes. Like you save the classics for the end of the night. You know what I mean? Yeah. So anyway, it's just, you know, it's just, there was a whole vibe to it, and that was fascinating to me. Like, oh, I want to be able to play like that. You know what I mean? So it was one of those kind of things where it's just like wherever I would go to play reggae, if somebody kind of like approached me and was like, oh, what do you know about playing reggae? Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I'll show you. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's the sound boy mentality, you know?
It's interesting to hear because so where was it? Obviously you're in Richmond now?
Richmond, Virginia, yeah. So I'm originally from Virginia Beach, which is like the 757. There's 7 cities that are all very close together. So you kind of like, you know, it's like kind of like the boroughs of New York, I guess, in a way. And like, it's like one of those things where you kind of frequent all those little cities every day, kind of a thing, because they're small, and especially with the nightlife and stuff. Like one day you're playing in Virginia Beach, one day you're playing in Norfolk, one day you're playing in Chesapeake, and there's P-Town and Hampton, Newport News, all of that. So, Yeah, so down there it was like, and it's a military town. There's one of the biggest naval bases in the country is there. One of the biggest Air Force bases is there. We have the Army bases there as well. Marines, Navy SEALs are based out of there. So I mean, it's a big military town. So you just constantly have like this transit amount of people, especially from New York and stuff. DC area is close by. It's just a few hours up the road. So like, I mean, you got to be able to play for like all those different crowds, so much different culture. It was just it was a beautiful place to grow up in, like as far as like learning a lot about a lot of different areas at a very young age,
And why was reggae so popular?
The ladies, man, I guess. The ladies loved it. I mean, it was just one of those things where it's like
yeah,
in DC nightlife, New York nightlife, especially the 90s and into the 2000s, reggae ran the normal club. Like I said, even if it was a hip hop night, you better play like good amount of reggae because that's just what people liked. It was like, I think it was just that whole like kind of era where like you had like the dance hall stuff where it was like the hip hop dance hall, like kind of just brought it all together. So it was just, I don't, I really can't break it down to you other than like, it's just, it was part of the music for us. So it's like I just learned that along with learning hip hop. I'm glad I did, and like I said, I'm very thankful that one of the DJs that I met early on in my career who was really good at playing playing reggae was like, yo, this is how you play reggae, like, and started taking me to all the reggae dances, and it was awesome because not a lot of people, especially being like white or whatever, like in those times, like clubs, like, my homie who was cool with all the reggae sound systems. They would bring me to the clubs, and like literally every time I walked in the club, it was like the needle would skip. You know what I mean? It was like, what is this white boy doing here? Like, you know what I mean? But like everybody like accepted me because of the music. You know what I mean? It was like everybody saw I was like, I love the music, and then as they saw me start DJing out and playing the music and playing it the right way, I was like immediately accepted, and that's the beauty of music, right? Like being accepted into a whole different culture, like because you love that culture.
Well, yeah, I mean, music is probably one of the only things I think in the world that brings people together from disparate cultures. Completely different cultures, ages, nationalities, genders, everything. People can be into music, and you could be from these other amazing groups all around, and it's
correct.
Yeah,
right.
it's
beautiful.
It's why we've got this passion,
Right.
It does surprise me sometimes when people just aren't really into music, So you get the odd people who just aren't into it.
Yeah.
You just go, well, how can you not be into music?
Right.
It's what comes with it. It's not just listening to music. It's the whole culture. Meeting people like you. Going to gigs, going to festivals, meeting people, everyone you talk to, and it's just sharing your life with all these amazing like-minded people. It's amazing, absolutely
It
amazing.
really is. It really is.
Let's have another track. Let's have another one.
Okay.
I always lose count. I think maybe 5 or 6. I don't know what number one. Doesn't really matter. But yeah.
How many are we doing? I forgot.
I think maybe 5, but it doesn't matter. Keep going.
No, I mean, how many do you want to do? We're just going to keep going, or what?
We'll just keep going. Yeah. We'll keep going till we've had enough or covered everything. Like I said, it's not. We've going an hour, so we've probably got another half an hour or an hour. It's fine.
Okay, so like I said, I went through different phases or whatever of, especially collecting 45s and whatnot.
Yeah.
So fast forward to like later 2000s or whatever you want to call it, like 2010, 2009, 2010. I hadn't been really collecting vinyl for a while at that point because I was so engulfed into Serato and all of that. But like, I still had a collection. Just there was nowhere I would DJ it. Nobody really cared other than just DJing with it in my room, And then finding this particular record got me back into especially 45s again. So this was put out on a reissue through a Virginia record label, Plut Records.
Okay.
And it's old soul music from Norfolk, Virginia, which is where like right by where I grew up. So Norfolk was part of the 7 cities. I actually grew up in Hampton and then moved to Virginia Beach where I came of age. Norfolk is like literally in the middle of the two. So it's like, I don't know, just held a very special place in my heart. And like, I didn't know this kind of music would come out of Norfolk, Virginia for that time. And then through discovering this record label, this reissue label, and these tracks, I discovered Lee Fields, which I did not know, used to record a lot of music in Norfolk, Virginia, back in those days. So it's just a Virginia record. Funky tune.
No, that's a good one. That's really good. That's a really good one. And I guess one of the things I think we miss in the UK is obviously the fact that in the US, each state, each city, each particular county had their own sort of brand of funk, and they would just put out so many records. Because obviously we see sort of photos and videos of people going to warehouses in the States, and there's just like, tons and tons of funk that we would never ever hear, and was never released probably outside of the US because it was so small. So that's one thing we do miss over here, and I assume it's quite good for digging if you can get to these places.
I don't know. It seems like you guys kind of got to that point in the later years, like.
We've got lots of charity shops and things like that, and
Well, I mean, just like original music styles. Like it seems like a lot of the people making the like modern soul and funk of the last like 20 years are all coming from basically over there,
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really, there's a lot of people who are way more educated on that whole era of the old soul and funk stuff than me, but it just kind of seemed like everybody was chasing that whole James Brown, Stax Records
right
vibe. And so, like, I don't know, it just seems to be that pressing up 45s back then was very easy. So you just see a lot of private pressings in, like, especially like southern towns of the United States, like, where it's like these people were just trying to, like, break into the music scene, and so they're just recording, like, this amazing music, and a lot of it just seemed to just get thrown by the wayside. And then through DJ culture, which is, again, like, which is so amazing about DJ culture and hip hop sparking that, is that, like, all this amazing music got resurfaced through diggers.
Yeah.
Like, think about all the music we would never know about if it wasn't for record diggers, DJs, It's unreal.
And it's
really stop and think about it.
Yeah, and I guess it's only now. I guess back then it was people like Shadow and Chemist and that digging and then putting it out because they had the sort of stature, and some of these other DJs to get the music out to a sort of mass market. But again, and then it's the internet, isn't it? People putting things out and sort of you can go on YouTube and find something that you've probably never heard of that someone's found in some warehouse somewhere. It's a strange and cool time to be alive, and it's great that we've got access to all this music.
It's amazing
that we wouldn't have otherwise had.
Yeah.
We've mentioned hip hop a few times. Obviously, your logo, wu-tang. We have to talk about wu-tang. So tell me about wu-tang. Why is it such a big part of your life and your logo? And obviously you have shows about wu-tang and things like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the logo thing just kind of happened. It It was actually just they just started like just kind of jacked it and added my name to it just for fun, and like whatever, blah blah blah. And then it just kind of stuck. I just kind of kept using it, and like yeah. So it was really no super deep science behind it becoming now my logo, which is like I feel like I still need to change it. The one I had before that was like a play on the Misfits logo. The one I used for the longest time was the Misfits skull, and it said Jeyone, the turntable misfit, because I always felt like I never fit in with any particular style or genre or like, I don't know. It just summed up my personality. Like growing up, I always heard from all of my friends, like I was too white for my black friends and too black for my white friends.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
So I always was in this weird gray area my whole life of like things that I was into. It's like, I was like, I don't know, super into hip hop and stuff, but dressed like a skater. So, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It was just, I always just grew up with this weird, to me, it was just being normal. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So I always just felt like a misfit. So when it was time to come up with a logo, I came up with the Turntable Misfit one. I felt like it would just kind of summed up what I was about. And I felt like, it kind of helped to like lead people in a direction. Like if you're coming out to hear me DJ, like be prepared to hear anything. Cause like, depending on what mood I'm in is where I'm going to kind of go with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so that was that. And then, so with Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers, as I'm sure with a lot of people, like totally changed my life. I had already been to hip hop for a little while. This was when I was still skating, hadn't gotten into DJing yet. This is what, 93. I think when first time I heard the Wu-Tang album was actually like 92. So it was like before it came out because, one of my best friends, his older brother lived in New York. He went to visit for a summer. He comes home, brings a dubbed out cassette tape of 36 Chambers. First night we hung out from him coming back from New York for like the whole summer. He's like, dude, you got to hear this. This is all they're playing in New York. This is crazy. I got a copy from my brother. And he puts it in. I remember we were sitting in my lowrider truck at the time and smoking on a, and we put it in, and just from the beginning, man. I mean, we just sat there and stared at the radio for the 45 minutes to an hour that album is, and was just like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
It was just the most amazing version of hip hop I had ever heard. Like it was so raw and dirty, and I'm like, oh my God, these dudes are like super scary. Like, and I'm not a dude who gets scared easily, but I'm like listening to Method Man just talk on this shit, and I'm like, damn, I don't want to run to that dude in an alley. You know what I mean? Like, it was just crazy. It was just, I heard nothing like that. So after that, I didn't want to hear anything else. I dubbed that cassette from him that night, which was probably at this point a 20th generation dubbed cassette tape, and like I couldn't listen to anything else. Nothing else sounded good to me anymore. And still to this day, like it's like whenever I'm just burnt out on music, I don't want to hear anything, I put the 36 Chamber CD on in my car, and like it just brings you back to that moment of why like I fell in love with it, like it's just something about that album just speaks to me like on a whole nother level. And so, whatever. Just major influence on me. And then just over the years, it's just like always been my go-to. And then to watch the different levels of Wu-Tang. Like when Wu-Tang first came out and was really first like blowing up, there used to be signs in the DJ booth at the club, like do not play any Wu-Tang, because people would fight to it. It was so rowdy. You know what I mean? So it was just like, nobody would play Wu-Tang at the club for like the longest time. It was banned, kind of a thing. Okay. And then we started kind of playing it again as it like kind of would mellow out. And some of the other albums started coming out, the solo albums and stuff. Some of the songs got a little more mellow, and it was like kind of brought it all back around. And then after a while, that whole rowdiness to it faded away, and it was all good again. And then to watch the resurgence over the last like, I don't know, 6 years or so with the young generations. It's just like every few years you see like these young generations get obsessed with Wu-Tang. And it's just because it's really like, it's just something that's so different from everything that has ever existed musically. I mean, it's right up there with like, and to me, it's like James Brown, Prince, and then like Wu-Tang. You know what I mean? It's like these drastic changes in music. And that was just a drastic change. Like, and it still resonates to this day. I mean, my wife's little sisters, who's like 22 years old, like loves Wu-Tang. And I'm just like, how do you even like know this? You know what I mean? Or just like whatever. Like, it just still amazes me when I see like young kids just love Wu-Tang.
But
It's just-
so you ask her that question? So how did she find out about Wu-Tang? Was it you, or was it just through
No,
somewhere else?
she just heard it. You know, it was just like one of those things. She's like, was just into music. I heard the song and was like, what's that? And I think it has that effect on a lot of people. It's just when you hear it for the first time, like, just what is that? You know what I mean? Like, it just sounds so different, especially if you've never heard it before. See, I think with a lot of us DJs nowadays, we've been listening to it for so long that it's just so normal to us now.
Yeah.
That like we forget like how different it actually sounds when you've never heard anything like that. So anyway, but yeah, and then along the way, like Wu-Tang always had deep ties in Virginia, especially 757. That was where they opened up one of the second Wu Wear store that ever existed was in Norfolk, Virginia, Military Circle Mall. And they all have family down there. A lot of people from New York would end up in Virginia, especially to 757. And so those guys would be around. Actually, some of their first groups that they signed, like Killer Army and stuff like that, like one of the guys from Killer Army's from Newport News. They also signed Wu Syndicate. That was all from Newport News. So like those guys would be down there. Like, you know what I mean? It was not uncommon to like maybe run into one of those guys at the mall. You know what I mean? Like they would just be in town, like hanging out or whatever. And then over the years of me just continuing to play Wu-Tang and stuff and becoming, you know, meeting all those guys. And then like not too long ago, I actually finally got to meet Mook, who is their original manager, who put them in the game. And he was like, came to one of my Wu-Tang brunches that I do down at Virginia Beach. And he was like, yo, you're officially Wu-Tang now. He knighted me as
brilliant
a Wu-Tang DJ, you know what I mean? And they've been trying to get me to do some mixes for their app, but I'm terrible at recording mixes, so that brings me back to that dilemma. Yeah. I hate listening to myself back.
Well, just record it and don't listen back.
I know, but
it'd be good to get on their app though. That'd be amazing.
Yeah. I've passed up so many opportunities in my career over that problem of mine, but you know. We all have our quirks, I guess, you know?
Yeah. I mean, could you do like a live, we'll talk about Twitch in a minute, but could you do like a Twitch set and just record that?
I think that's why I love Twitch so much.
Yeah.
Is because it's that, you know, you could just jump on, DJ, and then it's over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got your archives that live for a couple of weeks and that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Cool.
So to me, I think that's why it's like Twitch is part of the perfect platform for me, because every time like people ask me like to record mixes for them and stuff, and shout out to DJ D1200, I still owe her a mix, and I've tried to record it like 3 different times, and I'm just so critical of myself, and I'm like, and then I keep putting it off and I don't do it again, and I don't know, I'm just terrible at recording mixes. I think I still owe you a mix too for 45 days.
Yeah, he's cool. I know. You know, at the end of the day, I put these ideas out there, and you know, people do it or they don't do it. You know, it's cool if people do it, but you know, you can't.
I only have one mix online right now, and that's literally one of the only few mixes that have ever existed for me online. The only person who has more than one mix from me is DJB, because he would like. Every time I put out a mix and it might be up for like 2 days and then I'd take it down, he would always get it. And then so like he plays back mixes of mine that I'm like, oh my God, I don't even remember recording that, you know?
Right.
Like,
okay.
So he has the J1 archives, but other than that,
I
mean, that's about it, you know? Yeah, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, let's pause there on Twitch. We'll come back to Twitch in a minute, but let's do one more track and then we'll talk about Twitch. And then,
so since we talked about Wu-Tang, I'm
of course
super pumped to have this now on 45, and it's a very good remastered, slightly re-edited version. Big ups to the almighty Little Static bootleg label. me, like the beauty of the songs that RZA chose to sample
Yeah.
for 36 Chambers was crazy, because not only did this guy catch like the illest samples out of some of these songs, but the songs are just amazing songs on their own.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's like so many levels to it, you know?
Exactly. And it's so, I mean, that's a beautiful standalone track, you know, that's the thing. Because a lot of hip hop sampling is the track's okay, and then there'll just be like one little break or one little sample that someone's
Right.
found or dug deep. But, you know, and yes, you could play the track, but it wouldn't necessarily fit. But something like that, the whole
Right.
thing's beautiful. You know, it's
Right.
a beautiful, beautiful track. Right. Twitch then. So when and how did you first get involved in Twitch?
So I think, like most people, pandemic, you know, I was a little late to the game because personally I was going through an extremely rough time at that point, outside of just COVID. Like COVID was just another layer to it all.
Yeah.
But I had lost two very close friends prior to the pandemic from drug overdoses.
Right.
And then the pandemic hits. First of all, my wife and I, we had just moved to Richmond, Virginia. So we had just did this like very drawn out long move. We lived in Charlotte, North Carolina for a little while. We had to sell our house and do all this stuff to move here. It was just a major headache, months and months of stress and headaches. We get here and then the pandemic hits. And we both worked in the nightlife. So we lost our jobs. She was a bartender / manager. I'm a DJ. We had just started new jobs. Everything was starting to go great. And then a couple weeks later, everything the whole world shuts down. Also in the middle of this, like I found out my best friend was dying of cancer, ended up passing away at the beginning of 2021.
Cool.
So battling all of that over the course of 2020,
Yeah.
I start watching everybody DJ on Twitch. I am just feeling unmotivated to DJ. I'm very thankful for all my friends that were around me that continue to push me and keep me inspired. DJ AA played a big part during that year.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to also in a minute. And yeah, Twitch was again like kind of my savior. Like it kept me in a good mental place. Like most people, I was probably drinking a little too much during those days and stuff like that. You know, and but watching everybody do their thing on Twitch and watching these channels like Selector 720 is a perfect example. I watched that guy from the beginning. DJ for like 10, 15 people, you know, and watch what his show turned into. Sam Tweaks, another perfect example. I mean, so much. Watch you guys come along, like you, and turn it into your talk show at DJ raids and these 3-day festivals of Twitch raids. And I mean, oh my God, it's amazing. And thankfully, the Donovan from the Motown on a Monday family, which much love and respect to him. Motown on a Monday was doing big things at that time on Twitch, and I was fortunate enough to go and DJ in San Francisco with Donovan and the whole original Motown on a Monday fam and all that, and was always a big part of that scene for prior to the pandemic. And he was like, "Yo, man, we need you on Twitch. We need you on Twitch." And between him and AA, they helped me set up my Twitch, like learn OBS and where my settings need to be, what I needed to do all that. Also, DJ Mel from Texas played a big part in that. Shout out to him. And yeah, like, so then I finally got on, would play every once in a while when people would ask me to, and try to get motivated to play. Finally, like 2021, I think was when I really started to like get out of my funk and get back to it, you know, and have been taking it pretty serious ever since. And it's just been amazing. I mean, the people that I've met through this, like, you know, I knew all of you guys like through Instagram and stuff a little bit, like prior to Twitch, but now with Twitch, I've really gotten to know everybody, and like everybody that I didn't know, like Sideshow, for example, like what an amazing human, and like, you know, got to know him through Twitch, you know what I mean? And just so many other people the same way. DJ Bionic from I do Bio Train Tuesdays with, and like I said, yourself, and like, and then when I, you know, it was one of those things where it's like my birthday raid was one of the most amazing moments for me, because the year prior, you know, or actually both years prior, well, okay, so my birthday was March 2020. That's when everything was falling apart. There was no Twitch yet. 2021, I was still a little in my funk at March of 2021. I think I got on and tried to DJ by myself for my birthday that year. And like a few people came through and it was cool. And it was like, whatever. And then I just watched how everybody else was kind of putting together these raids and stuff. And then so I'm like, well, I'm about to turn 45. I love 45s. This is the perfect time to do this,
Has
you know?
to be done. Has to be
Yeah,
done.
it's like, here we go. Let's just see what this is. And literally every person I reached out to, everybody was exactly the same. Hey, I'm putting together this raid. I love what you do. I would love for you to be a part of it. They're just like, what time? There was like only one person who even asked me like, oh, well, who's playing before me or who will I be raiding into? You know what I mean? Like everybody just did it on the strength of that. They were like, they respected me and love what I do. And I love what they did. And that to me speaks volumes. You know what I mean? Like I am very thankful for everybody who pays attention to me as a DJ and what I do, you know? And for all those, such a diverse group of people wanting to be part of it was, to me, was so touching. And like everybody was like so amazing. Everybody had so many different sets. And it was just like, I just had this vision of like this group of people that I knew I've been watching on Twitch and that I loved the most, and was like, I would love to see all these people play one after the other for my birthday. And I literally sat and stared at the TV the entire day because it was so fun. Like, you know, me and my wife danced in the living room, and it was like one of my best birthdays I ever had. And it was like in my living room, you know what I mean? Like it was just the best. And that really showed me like, man, this is just amazing. And I've been trying to work very hard at it ever since. You know, I love Twitch and the community and the people. Can't say enough good things. Like
I think for me, it's the give and take. You know, it's amazing that, you know, you get people involved, they get you involved, and it's the sharing, and
right.
we're putting on an event, and, you know, like you say, you know, again, like you know, I put on all these events, and very rarely does anyone say, well, who else is on the lineup, or
Right.
you know, who's playing before me, or how many followers. You know, I don't get that. I haven't had that at all, really, which is great. But I'm going to pause there for 1 second,
Sure.
because obviously I did play your 45th birthday, and
Yes.
I played this track, which you liked. So I'm gonna play it again.
I love it.
I said a chip, shoop, a chippy, the chippy with the chip, shoopy. You don't stop the queuing for the bang bang mash. I said fried place in Alex with chippies and the mushly peas. I said a chip, shop, a chippy, the chippy with the chip, shoppy. You don't stop the queuing for the bang bang mash. I said fried place in Alex with chippies and the mushly peas. When you get home from work each day, your stomach feels like grass. You have a wash and then you say, I'm starving now, alas. The wife gets up and grabs her coat, she grabs your wallet too. Now come on love, don't act the goat, go get some food for two. I said a chip, shop, a chippy, the chippy with the chip, shoppy. You don't stop the queuing for the bang bang mash. I said fried place and Alex with chippies and the mushly peas. She said, Jack, can you fry? Can you fry me a haddock with chips and pie? Can you wrap them too? Thanks, that will do. Guess what, you chippies, now we love you. The telly's bust, I'll walk down to the pub. My mates are there, supping ale and Dolly's serving grub. I buy a pint and make...
What an amazing song.
The interesting thing about that is I've been in a record shop in in Hastings, which is on the coast, and is on the show, and obviously lots of fish and chip shops and stuff like that. And I hadn't heard of it, and I just saw it. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's pretty cool. And picked it up, and I was like, well, I'm going to play it. You know, I was like, people either like it or they hate it. But it was a tune that you knew already, I think. You know, and it's something that you'd heard, I think. Is that right?
Who, me?
I
had never heard it before you played it.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood. I thought it was something that you knew already.
No, I had no clue. My wife and I were sitting, you know, listening to your set.
Yeah.
We were drinking and like just hanging out, and
then
that song came on, and we both were just like, "What the fuck is this? It's so funny!" Like, you know, I've just kind of learned about chip shops like over the last few years, right?
Okay.
So, which to me like seems to be a pretty like amazing subculture there in the UK, because it seems like a lot of chip shops are like really into like hip hop and stuff, right? Yeah.
Yeah, certain places. Yeah. I mean, you've got in Brixton. There's a venue called the Chip Shop, which
Right.
yeah. But yeah, it's I mean, the interesting thing is my parents used to run, and my uncle used to run a fish and chip shop, and I used to work at a fish and chip shop when I was
Okay.
younger. I think it's traditional in the sort of Greek Cypriot family that I'm from. They have fish and chip shops.
Right.
And obviously we will work. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's a crazy track.
Yeah, so then to hear somebody like make a parody rap song about it
Exactly.
was just so great. And I guess that guy has like a lot of songs, huh?
Maybe, I don't know.
'Cause
So
I've
it's
heard,
Alan and Blewett chip shop rapping. I don't know what's on the flip side.
I heard Bionic play some tracks where he's actually
Yeah.
redoing some other like hip hop songs. Like I think there's like a Pharaoh Monch get the fuck up one where he like does a rap over that about something. I don't know. It's funny. Like it's just I thought that was an amazing record. I love that record.
But it's the beauty of Twitch that you can just play whatever the hell you like.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I that's what I love about it, because I've always, when I've DJed out, I've always just, you obviously play to the crowd a bit, but obviously I like just to drop stuff in a random crap like that where you just don't know. It's either going to be like, wow, that's amazing, or it's going to bomb.
Right.
But I was quite surprised. I just wanted to see what the reaction was, and it seemed to go quite well, which I was very happy with.
Oh, man, I loved it. I'm so glad that you played it. Thank
But
you.
it was that was a fun gig. That was a fun gig. Right. I think let's do one more if you've got one, and then
absolutely.
I think you're going to show us some skills after that. I'm going to pick out a tune, and you're going to get busy on some tunes after that.
So, as you can see by that sticker, I think you know where we're going.
Yeah.
So for me, it was always a big dream of mine to have something on vinyl, but had never happened until 2020, and I met Double A.
Yeah.
And he said, "Hey, man, you got this War Pigs edit that you made. I love it, and I want to put it on 45." And I never thought I'd ever hear that statement in my life. You know what I mean? So big up to him. Not only did he want to put it on 45, he wanted to jumpstart his label with it. So I'm so thankful to him for giving me that experience. You know what I mean? Because it seemed like every time like somebody asked to put out a track on vinyl would fall through or something,
Right.
and I would try to do it myself. Like I actually was in the process of trying to put this actual song on 45 right before the pandemic.
Okay.
And then when the pandemic hit, the record plant closed down.
Yeah.
So the whole thing just fell apart,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And then, of course, like I wasn't working, so the money I was going to use to press that went to bills and blah, blah, blahs.
Yeah.
And then here comes Double A, like, hey, man, like, let's do this. And so I was just like, wow, this is amazing. Like, big ups to him, you know? So, yeah, I'm sure, like, a lot of people have heard this tune already, and I'm very thankful to all the people who run it like crazy on Twitch. Like, it still blows me away every time I just, like, tune into somebody's channel and then it, like, pops on.
Yeah.
Like, it was funny, like, when we got the test presses and I got my test presses, I guess at the same time as, like, everybody else who was getting them at the time started getting them, and I just didn't really put two and two together. I was a day after I got mine, like, I was watching Twitch and Scratch Bastard was doing a guest pop-in set for somebody's raid or something like that, and
Yeah.
it was like the third song he dropped. And I was like, holy shit, like, he's playing
Amazing.
the Word Pigs, you know what I mean? Like, and the Scratch Bastard of all people, like,
Yeah,
big
yeah,
ups
yeah.
to him, by the way. I think he might have been the first person to play it. And that was like a Wednesday night, I think. And then Friday morning, DJ Coco does his infamous Instagram set, played it in the mix. I was like, holy shit, like, two of my favorite 45 DJs in existence played the 45 within a couple of days of each other. And then from there, like, other people started playing it more and more. And still to this day, it's still just like, I'm very thankful every time I pop into somebody's set and it comes on, you know?
I mean, yeah. Go on, and I'll tell you something in a sec.
Sure.
Rock the house and rock the house and
then I put a little hidden message at the end
Okay.
that I thought was pretty fitting for the whole metal. Funny how many people still haven't heard this.
What we're gonna do right now, have a little fun with backwards messages that were recorded on records back like in the early day. This is some crazy shit. My sweet Satan. Did you hear that? The power of Satan. Did you hear him say the power of Satan? The power of Satan 666.
So it was always funny to me, like back in the day, you used to always like hear on the news and stuff
Yeah,
about Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath records. If you played them backwards, it would put you in a trance and make you worship the devil and what all that blah blahs.
Yeah. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I mean, big congrats. You know, that's such a great tune. And
Thank you.
like you said, it's stuff that cuts through as well, because obviously as 45s DJs, we buy a lot of 45s, and you know, but that's one that's sort of stuck around, you know, because obviously 45s come and go. People play them like most stuff, you know, like on the radio. You play it for a few weeks and then it will go to the back of your crate, and that.
Right.
But that's one that still people play quite regularly.
I'm so thankful, man, because it's like I felt like it was such an odd edit, like, and it sums up my style and kind of what I represent. Like, I have a lot of all my personal edits are like stuff like that, where I've taken rock songs and kind of like added that boom bap element to them.
Yeah,
that was like one of the things that I really fell in love with the whole Dusty Donuts crew. Like, when all those tracks were coming out, like, you know, like Jim Sharp, especially like taking all these like the song that was sampled and like boom bapping it out so that you could play it along with everything else, because like we were talking about earlier, like some of these songs are just great songs on their own, but just needed that little bit of stuff added to them, you know, just some drums and stuff.
A little bit of beat, you know, just to make them a little bit faster, maybe just to sort of, you know, blend it in. But yeah, I mean, you know, big up Double A, you know, that label's brilliant, and the latest two dropped just before I went to Glastonbury, so thankfully I had them, and I definitely played them a few times at Glastonbury, and then they always went down really well.
Yeah, they're great.
Quickly on that, so obviously you've described how you started producing. What did you use for that, or what do you use now for producing?
GarageBand.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'm still pretty basic with it. Most of that. So I actually made that edit back in 2013.
Right. Okay.
So I over the years I would DJ a lot of stuff for Vans.
Yeah.
So I would DJ a lot of like skate and surf events for them. And so, you know, that's a very diverse crowd that likes classic rock and hip hop and everything else. So like over these years of DJing for them, like I would just always, after I would DJ these summer of events for them, I would come home and start making edits of stuff that I could play the next year. Like, oh man, like if I had this stuff, like this would go great. You know what I mean? And So that was like one that was made for like one of those events. And it just, over the years, like people kept getting it. And for a while, I was doing edits and stuff for the Beat Junkies website. Big ups to all them, especially D Styles, the god of scratching. And that edit, they picked that edit to be on there. And then a lot of people got it from there. And there was everybody started hitting me up with that about, oh, I like that edit. And it just always had a life that just kept going on. So it's just amazing to see it still going on, because I literally made that edit and cut and pasted it together in GarageBand for like, in like an hour. Like I literally looped drums, recorded them in Serato, put it in GarageBand, and then cut and paste the track to the beat. No warping, all the extra Ableton stuff that people do.
Yeah.
Whatever. So it's funny, like Double A was like, yeah, you know, we need to like touch it up a little bit, get the sound quality a little better and things. Can you send me your session? And I sent it to him. And he immediately like hits me back and was like, holy shit, dude, I can't believe how you made this song. Like, it's literally like cut and paste. Everything is like, it's like little chunks of the song cut to like be on beat. And I'm like sliding each individual piece here and there and adding in these little pieces here and there. Like whatever. It was funny, but that's just how I know how to produce, you know? Like I never really took the time to learn Ableton and stuff.
Well, and it's, if it's not broken, why fix it? At the end of the day,
Yeah.
if you can put together a track like that in an hour, which is amazing, why do you need to go and learn another program, which is, Ableton's great, but it is massive and so much you can do with it. It is quite
Right.
distracting. Whereas I've used GarageBand a little bit, and obviously I know it's a lot more straightforward and a lot more simple, so it's easier to get your ideas down quickly. Without all this extra stuff going on that will distract you from what you're trying to do.
Right.
But it's interesting sometimes how these things come out. For we had Shaka Loves You, Jamie Shaka, on Pitch Rider's show a couple of weeks ago, and they had a 45 come out on Bomb Strikes, and he was talking about the B side. They needed something for the B side, and he just said, okay, just threw something sort of together really quickly, thinking, oh, it'd just be a throwaway B side, and it became quite a popular B side. And it's interesting sometimes, the things that come out quickly. Sometimes the best,
It's, I guess,
like
I said, like I made that one and I just never really thought it would turn into what it did. But I'm so thankful.
Well, it's amazing, isn't it? Almost a decade later, it's on a 45.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
fantastic.
Really like next year will be like 10 years since I made that.
Is there plans for any more? Is there any more 45?
Yeah, I would love to.
Pipeline?
Yeah. Anybody that wants to maybe put out a J1 edit, holler at me.
I guess the problem at the moment is obviously the worldwide pressing plant problem.
Absolutely.
And it's, I think even a few years ago, it was more straightforward. Now getting stuff pressed is, it just seems to take a long time. There's some labels who seem, I've had T2 Funk came on and he seemed to, his label seems to be able to do it. There's some place in London that seems to be a bit quicker than everyone else, but most labels are sort of 9 months, 12 months. It's insane, really.
Double A started putting that particular 45 together towards the end of 2020.
Yeah.
And then, we had it out. We had the test presses. He sent it off to the pressing plant, I think, in like September of 2020. Yeah. And then we didn't get the test presses back till March of 2021. That's crazy. Then from there it just went downhill. He had all these releases planned out for the rest of the year, which the ones you were just talking about, the one with the Gaff and DJ Flag and all that, those were supposed to come out like summer of 21. And they just came out now. Pretty much the summer of 2022.
Yeah, summer of 22. Yeah.
So
it's
the plan was to eventually circle back January of 2022. Him and I were going to do another release to celebrate the 1 year of Mount 45s. But here we are. He's still trying to get out some of the releases that were slated for 21. I know he's still got a lot of stuff in the chamber. So hopefully all that makes its way out soon. So hopefully him and I will circle back at some point. I know he's doing a major move at this point, so big up to him.
That's right. Yeah. He's moving across the world, isn't he?
Yeah.
Once he's settled, maybe things can start moving. But yeah, I don't know where it's going to go because the other thing is that the prices of 45s are just going up and up and up, like everything else. Like everything else in the world is going up. At some point there'll come a breaking point. I think in one of the WhatsApp chats today, there's a Japanese pressing of a hip hop track that was on Juno, something like £35 for a 7-inch. And you're just like, and it's sold out within about an hour. And you're just like, that's a lot of money. I know you've paid 500 to scratch up a record before, but something like £35 for a new 45 is crazy. Right. But maybe we'll still buy them. I don't know. Maybe we will. We'll see. Right. Talking about cutting it up. I asked you if you could do like a little routine or something, and you said yes, and you said you'd pick out a handful of records and I'd choose one, and then you do something with it. So what have you got? What are my choices?
Well, let's see. I got the In Peace to President break, which is probably people are tired of hearing me play that. Okay. Big Beat, which probably people are hearing me tired of hearing me play that because I play it all the time. Those are two of my favorite records I love to cut up. The Funky Thing by Dusty Donuts, Private Stock track, Hyped Up Ants by Dusty Donuts, The Champ.
That's a classic.
I don't know. That's a couple, I guess.
Let's do The Champ. Let's do The Champ, actually.
Yeah, I haven't done that one in a while.
Yeah.
This one likes to skip on me too, so this will be a challenge.
Okay. Take it easy, Double P. Thanks for tuning in, mate, and speak to you soon.
Big ups to Double P. All right, so I'm gonna have to adjust the volumes here. I'm listening to you through my computer, and once I turn up my monitor speaker, it'll echo. So,
Okay.
so yeah, give me a minute to like get it set up.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Of course, get set. I'll talk about what we've got coming up while you're
right.
setting up. That's cool. Right. So obviously, this is all back to mine. If you want to watch this back or are tuning in later, then this will be back on Mixcloud to listen back to, or it will be on YouTube to watch back to probably tomorrow. But in the meantime, we've got We Love Sevens kicking off tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. That is over 77 hours of 7-inch vinyl DJ sets, starting with Sideshow Mall's 7 Deadly Sevens. He's got, I think, 82 DJs, I think, playing 7-inch records, 20-minute sets. He's kicking it off at 7 a.m. UK time. And ZZ45, my daughter, is playing at 20 past 7, just before she goes off to school. And then after that, we've got 24/7, my new raid event, which is 24 hours of sevens. After that, we've got a bumper edition of Coffee and Donuts, which is 10 hours. We've got a session from Italy, including Mark Hype, Vito, Keederman, and Enzo Pietanza. And then we go to Swindon for Sam Tweaks and Double P and lots of people from there, put together by Funky Diabetic. Then we go to Saturday Night Experience for 45 special. And then we've got Bright as the Sun, the 45's monthly jazz special on the 45 King. So that is 77 hours of sevens. If you like your sevens, there is plenty coming from 7 a.m. tomorrow. But tune in and check it out. But anyway, how you doing? You ready to go?
45s, huh?
Yeah, nice sleep for 45. Definitely. Cool. How you doing? You ready to go?
Yeah, let's give it a shot.
Let's do it.
Little something.
That's amazing. We've got Benny Goggs in the house suggesting that I follow that. No way, mate. Absolutely no way. But I like what you did in the middle there, when you dropped it down to 33, because I play 45s at 33 sometimes. Am I right? Have you been a guest on Slow Down Mondays, or am I imagining things?
Not yet.
Not yet.
So, big ups to Don Champ.
Yeah.
I was actually giving him a hard time about it last night. I was in his chat giving him a hard time because I'm like, hey, man, what's up? You asked me to come on like a while back, and we haven't made it happen yet. But I love Don. Like, Don is the best.
he's not the quickest at replying to messages. Let's put it
No,
that
but
way.
that's okay.
Bless
That's
him. That's cool.
that's Don, right?
I mean, I got him on the show. You know, we
I saw.
we postponed by a couple of weeks, but I got him on the show, which was great. And I think we might do a part 2 at some point because you know he's got stories for days. You know, stories for days. Yeah, that was brilliant. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
That was so good.
You know, I always try to just freestyle some stuff, and sometimes it comes out, sometimes it doesn't. You know.
Yeah, no, but it's and also 45s is not the easiest thing to be doing that stuff on compared to 12s. I mean, do you find is 7s a lot harder?
For sure. Yeah, it's definitely of all the mediums, it's the hardest for sure. You know.
And I can't quite see, but I mean, are you running weights on those? Are you having the sort of?
Oh, nah, not at all. So I know everybody.
That's even more impressive because if you've got no weights on those at all, that's even more impressive.
So I'm gonna give away a little secret. I guess.
Here we go.
You know, I feel like every time I give up my little secrets, the
Sharing is caring.
Robert Smith takes it to another level. You know.
Okay, go on then. What's the secret?
Big ups Robert Smith. Talk about people who are nasty on 45s, right?
Yeah.
That guy. And, you know, DJ D1200 does her things as well. You know?
Yeah. They're both amazing.
So what I do with all my dinked 45s is I use the plastic adapters.
Okay, yeah.
And then I just stick them in there and I use, let's see if the reflection can show it.
Oh, I can see you got tape.
Yeah. So they're on there so that they stay, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, and then so that way I can just quickly put them on, change them, and then I can like kind of fill in the hole as well, with some tape. But yeah, like I could put tape like over top of this to hold it in place on both sides.
So it's one of the old school plastic adapters, and then sort of
Right.
tape over the top of it. Okay.
So I just bought like a ton of these, and every time I get a new dinked 45, I just fill it in, and it stays like that for forever. And then like if I ever have to use an adapter, I just still use the old Techniques ones, you know.
Yeah. And slip mats? What
You
are
know,
you
these
running?
basic ones.
Yeah. What are you running slip mats wise?
Oh man, you're trying to get me to put out all my secrets, huh? Well, of course, as we all know, for 45s, I see they're on your turntables as well.
Yeah.
Shout out to Breakbeat Lou.
Okay.
You know, the Ultimate Breaks and Beats fan.
I haven't got those ones. Which ones are those ones? The Breakbeat Loop.
Yeah, these are the Ultimate Breaks and Beats edition.
Okay. Cool.
They put these out around the same time they put out the 12-inch.
Yeah.
So
I've got the donuts, and then there's the new Dusty Donuts have just done an edition as well.
Yeah, I did see they put one out for that.
Which
Big
is
ups to the whole Dusty Donuts crew. Okay, so this is where the secret is. There we go. Yeah, those are dope.
Yeah, so I haven't even unpacked those yet, but I will be using them.
Yeah, I didn't unpack these for quite some time because I just loved it. Like, I'm just a huge fan of the whole like Ultimate Breaks and Beats, as I'm sure for all of us that was kind of the foundation, you know. And then, but before that, I had the orange ones that like you use, which I still keep those in my
the Dr. Suzuki
bag.
Yeah, they're nice. And then there's the slipping kit. We're getting very nerdy again, but I like getting nerdy on this show. So I use these on top of our 45 Kings collective ones, and then they've got
those are sweet too, by the way. I started seeing those pop up recently.
They're cool. Yeah.
Are those thin or are they a little thick?
No, they're quite thick, but I've got a plastic tablecloth sheets. Those are tablecloth things before that goes underneath. It's just the way I do it, you know.
So I got the butter rugs.
Yeah.
And then I have the slip sheets underneath as well, but I use two.
Oh, that's another good secret.
Yeah, don't tell everybody.
No.
But problem I started having like back in the day, like during like when the seasons would switch.
Okay.
Static, like when the winter would come. I have carpet in my room usually. My DJ room usually always has carpet.
Right.
So like static builds up in the air, you know. This is some real nerdy shit.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, really interesting.
So as I'm sure we've all faced along the way is when like you get the static buildup on your slip mats and stuff, and they kind of stick to the turntable.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so I discovered that using two pieces of plastic would help because then the bottom one sticks to the turntable and just kind of becomes unmovable, and then the one on top of it slides. You know.
That's really
So,
interesting. That's
that-
really
that's-
interesting. That's a good tip. DJ Cruz knows that. He says static is a mofo. He does know.
Shout out Cruise One.
And DJ B from France he used to cut plastic shopping bags.
I come out of nowhere. So before slip sheets came along, I used to hoard the Technique. Started putting some out for a little while. Like they would come with turntables or whatever. So whenever a club would like get new turntables for their club, and there was sheets were under, I would stick them.
They're never gonna know. Are
Nah,
they?
I would
They're
hoard
never gonna
them
know.
and like whatever, and then finally like Qbert started putting them out, I think first, and then Stokio does it nowadays. They have usually the best ones. Shout out to the whole Stokio crew.
Yeah. That's cool. Great. I think we're about there. Let me just set the raid. We're gonna go and see my man DJ Fade, who's doing Wax Wednesdays, and then after that, I think Island Vibes is playing after.
I believe so. Yeah. Shout
So
out Island Vibes,
Island
T-shirt
Vibes.
King.
He's been in the chat. He did our 45 Raiders, and he was showing us his T-shirt press when he did 45 Raiders a little while ago. But let me just set the raid, and then we'll sort of say it.
Yeah, he made my J1 shirts. Great guy. Also has an amazing collection.
Okay. Right. I think the raid is set. If someone can just let me know in the chat if the raid is set. I can't quite see it at this end for some reason. But yeah, it's been great. It's been really, really good.
I really appreciate you having me on. Like this might be my first in-person interview ever.
I think you mentioned that. You mentioned that when I said about doing it. You said you thought it was the first sort of interview that you've done. So I don't know. I can't see that the race set. Let me just make sure it's set.
Sure, no problem. But yeah, I've just always been a very in the background kind of dude, where it's like I always kind of subscribe to the DJ Shadow side of things, where I believe there's mystery is cool, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
So I've always kind of like, I try to get people to not use my face on flyers and things like that. Just use my logo, you know?
Yeah. Well, thank you. You know, if it is your first interview, thank you for popping your interview cherry with me. If people do want to watch it back, it will be on YouTube, on the channel, and there's lots of other shows. This is episode 26. I can't quite believe myself that we've got to this many. And then this is just this one, and then there's other shows. But and you can listen back on Mixcloud if you prefer listening podcast style. But it's been brilliant. Great selections, really interesting stories, a couple of secrets as well. I'm not sure I could ask for much more, really.
Thank you again, and you do an amazing job, man. Really, you do. Like I enjoy watching all your shows as a fan. Like I love the YouTube page. I watch it constantly, and I've been going back and catching up on all the episodes I missed on Twitch, so I'm super happy that we can watch it there for sure.
Yeah, it's great. And just tell people, what time are you playing on Seven Deadly Sevens?
I'm
testing
10:40 to 11, I think, or something like that.
Is that Eastern?
Yeah, East Coast time. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so that'll be, I'll probably be in bed. But,
then-
I'll try and catch something back. But thank you so much, Jeyone. It's been brilliant.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Thank you
I
to everyone
really
in the
appreciate
chat. It's been fantastic. And I hope to see you all very soon.
Much love. Much love.
Take it easy.